Coming up next on The Voice of Alabama Politics, jailing librarians. Also, more money for AMCC lawyers. And how fair are Alabama's gaming laws?
And during this match, there will be absolutely no biting. And no pulling of the nose.
Do something about this, Ref. Come on, what kind of place you running here?
And no kicking, ladies and gentlemen.
About as fair as wrestling pigs in the mud. All this and much, much more coming up next on The V. Welcome to The Voice of Alabama Politics, where we tackle the tough issues so you have the hard facts. I'm your host, Bill Britt, and as always, I'm joined by Susan Britt, research guru extraordinaire, and Josh Moon, columnist and investigative reporter at APR and on the hunt for Tommy Tuberville down in Florida.
Hey, y'all.
Still found him. Still found him. Got a couple more days down here to go, so I'm optimistic.
Well, you know, when our senator lives in Florida, we know we picked the right guy. Right?
Oh, yeah.
That's right.
Cares
Yeah.
about Alabama.
Well, I just keep following around illegal stock trades, hoping that I'll run him down somewhere, but it just hadn't happened.
It could happen any minute now.
There you go.
You know, during the 2024 session, the one that just passed, the legislature tried to get a comprehensive gaming bill passed, and it failed miserably. And one of the goals of that bill was to define what is legal and illegal gambling once and for all, and put an enforcement mechanism in that could go after the illegal gamblers and support those who gambled legally. Mm-hmm. Well, one of the things they said, Susan, during the debate was, we already have gaming laws. We just need to enforce them. So Attorney General Steve Marshall has taken that to heart. And this last week, he issued a cease and desist order to some notorious gamblers. Mm-hmm. I mean, we're talking about bad gambling folks.
Oh, yeah.
Who were selling raffle tickets to raise money for autistic kids. No, it was a bunch of nice women and men who are trying to promote a noble cause of helping children. But pretty boy here,
that lipstick,
he didn't like that. Yeah,
that looks like lipstick.
Filter that those teenage girls use on.
Yeah, I found that quite astonishing. Watch out, churches. He's coming for you next.
Yeah.
Because if you raffle off so much as a quilt, that's a thing of value in his mind. Of course, the truth of it is, he doesn't do his job. So he has to go around and find these little nitpicky things that make him look like he's actually showing up to the job every day, which he's not.
Well, he spends more time suing Biden than anything else, and he barely goes to the office, but he does pose for these lovely pictures that we have. But Josh, the absurdity here, that people were out trying to raise money to support autistic kids, and he cracks down on them and says, hey, you go forward with this, there'll be legal consequences.
Yeah, you know, I'm kind of torn on this, to be honest. Yes, it is nitpicky. Yes, it is petty and ridiculous. However, at some point in this, maybe it's something along these lines that makes people finally realize, our lawmakers finally realize, this is stupid what we're doing. Our laws are so antiquated and out of touch with reality and so unevenly enforced and so ridiculous that we are now punishing people who are trying to raise money for autistic kids by holding a raffle. And because you're right, listen, there's a lot of 50-50 raffles that take place at high school football games. Yeah. There's a lot of church raffles that take place for AR-15s and other weapons and other things of value. There are a lot of these types of things that are going on. There's a lot of church bingo in places where there shouldn't be church bingo taking place. And so, yes, we should crack down on all of these things because that's the law. And if you're going to crack down and try to make criminals out of people that believe they are legal, then you should definitely do it and spread it around with the same other folks here. And maybe eventually somebody will say, what are we doing?
Well,
What are we doing out here, man?
I totally agree with Josh on that. Maybe if we crack down to the point where they take the bingo out of churches, those people will get off their fannies and actually call the representatives and tell them to get the job done.
You know what Marshall will do, though? He will go to the furthest extreme humanly possible to prove how tough he is, which is what...
I'm going to disagree. I'm going to disagree because I think that what he's going to do is, like he always does, is he's going to decide what's popular and best for him.
Oh, yeah. Of course.
And once he figures out that what's popular and best for him is to back a solution that actually fixes this problem once and for all and puts us some laws in place and some enforcement mechanisms in place to stop illegal gambling and allow the legal gambling to go on, then I think he will hit. That's what is the only thing that's going to drive this to be.
But the only thing that made him oppose the gaming bill that we had was that Alpha was against it. And because Alpha is such a powerful lobby, he didn't want to get on the bad side of Alpha because he's wants to run for governor. Or if Tommy Tuberville will drop dead, he wants to run for Senate.
He wants to run for something.
He needs something. He has a big...
Yeah, you don't have to wait on Tuberville to die. You can just get him a buyout. Ask Auburn.
I don't know what to think, Josh. Anyway, I want to move on, and I'm tired of seeing Marshall mug. Now, Marshall this past week did do something, and we don't know how this is going to turn out, but he did indict Representative Kelvin Lawrence on 2 felony counts of using a forged document or instrument. These are Class C felonies. There is some question behind whether this should have been a felony indictment or a misdemeanor or whether it should have been charged at all. But it is charged, and this is part of the Attorney General's job. But we also know that this Attorney General has charged people, and the cases get thrown out because they were badly charged in the first place. We've seen that with Jonathan Barbie's case.
Yes, we have.
Jonathan works with us. But we saw that cost people hundreds of thousands of dollars to clear their name. Hopefully this is not another case of that. But Josh, Anthony Daniel, the minority leader, said he is standing by Kelvin Lawrence.
Yeah, it's called Kelvin his friend and knew what kind of man he was, and I have to think that Anthony doesn't say such thing lightly without knowing a lot of the facts of the case, and so I'm guessing that there's some things that will probably come to light over the course of the next few weeks that probably lessen the sting of this a little bit, or at least make it seem as though it's not as bad as initially thought. Because when you hear that somebody is charged with 2 felonies, you think that there've been some bad things that have gone on. I mean, I think it's pretty interesting that the indictment to this point has not been released, and so we don't know exactly what Representative Lawrence was accused of doing. I know it has to do with the building license and possibly misconstruing some information that was on a bid during a bid process. And so, I would like to see some of the facts of this thing.
Well, anyway, we're going to have to leave it right there. He is innocent until proven guilty. That is the law of the land. You're watching the voice of Alabama politics. We'll be right back.
My personal biggest pet peeve is kids who are not properly restrained, whether that be in a booster seat, a car seat, or even a simple seatbelt. Kids, they become projectiles, and it's terrifying.
It absolutely breaks my heart to know that something so innocent could be punished so severely.
Your children rely on you to be that person that says, no, you need to put your seatbelt on.
Your home is your most valuable asset. But what if someone tried to steal it from you? Property fraud is one of the fastest growing areas of fraud in the country today.
As a district attorney, I've seen firsthand the devastating effects of property fraud. That's why I'm proud to support the Montgomery County Probate Court's REACT program.
REACT is designed to protect your property and to give you peace of mind. By signing up, you'll receive an email notification if a document is filed against your property.
This program is a game changer. It has the potential to prevent fraud and protect countless homeowners throughout Montgomery County.
So don't wait. Sign up for REACT today and protect your home.
Protect your home with REACT. Sign up today.
Welcome back to the voice of Alabama politics. Last year, they tried to pass legislation that would have criminalized librarians for the book collections in the library. They are primarily trying to target LGBTQ content or anything to have to do with gender ideology, or even Black history. Mm-hmm. Just this past week, they refiled a bill in the House, HB 4, filed by Arnold Mooney and signed on to by 49 co-sponsors. That would, in fact, Susan, criminalize librarians if they have books in their collections that are considered inappropriate for minors. Now, it's so vague, you could drive a Mack truck through it. They also get into sexual conduct in which they claim that gender ideology or anything like having to do with transgender children or gay children is under sexual conduct, even if there's no sex in the book.
Yes, there are several books out there that have no sex in them whatsoever, not even so much as kissing. And they're trying to criminalize these books as well. Now, my understanding is most of these books are put in there by the board of the library, not the librarian themselves. That's not her or his or her own decision. But what they're doing is trying to pigeonhole librarians and put them in between a rock and a hard place about what they can have in their collections without specific identification of what those restrictions are. So basically they're going to say, you're just flying blind and we can just put you in jail at any time. Who's going to want to be a librarian after that?
Well, the idea, Josh, is to scare them, to make them afraid so that they will censor all books that they even think hints at something that might be offensive to this new Republican religion of curbing freedom of speech, freedom of thought, freedom of expression.
Yeah, it's not a big surprise that the warden from Shawshank is doing this, given the way Andy Dufresne treated him. But you're exactly right that it's when you leave it this further. There's no way this is going to pass, right? And if it does pass, there's no way it's not going to stand past the first challenge in court because it's so overly broad and absurd that there's no judge that's going to look at this thing. Even a conservative one wouldn't look at this and go, no, this is ridiculous. Okay. Because you're criminalizing them for things you can't even describe. They can't read the bill. They can't even describe what it is they don't want in there. They can't, it's just, they're going to have a conference at some point, I guess, and decide what is and isn't, improper. And who's going to determine this? What who are you going to let do this thing? All right. It's ridiculous. Nobody is complaining. No serious person is complaining about the content at libraries. We're talking about a handful of 20 or 25 people that are out there at this point at these libraries complaining about books they haven't even read.
Yeah. But what it is it's a few right-wing groups that have gotten together to put pressure on the libraries, and they put pressure on these lawmakers because, again, they are elected by a minority of the base of the Republican Party, much like Democrats are, elected. But this minority has decided that they want to censor books. They want to control speech. They want to go against everything that the Republican Party once stood for. And that is they want to be in control. In other words, They want big government to control what people can read, listen to, disseminate.
The Republican Party's always screaming about socialism when what they're trying to drive our country to is an autocracy.
Yeah.
That's the bottom line.
And what I'm afraid of, Josh, is they've said that they even passed a parental bill of rights, which had nothing to do with parental rights, really. But they don't trust parents to raise their children.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? It's the library is open. They take books in that are published by legitimate publishing houses and authors. They put them on shelves with nice little numbers so you can find them, and then you're free to go in and check them out or not check them out,
right.
Whatever you'd like to do.
Yeah.
And if your child is wandering aimlessly about a library and reading these books, first of all, congratulations as a parent for getting a child that loves to read and wants to learn more about his life and the people around him. Second of all, maybe if you're upset by this, maybe pay more attention to your own kid and leave the other ones the hell alone.
Well, one of the things that I learned, when Arkansas, was it Arkansas that passed the 10 Commandments in every classroom in the
Louisiana.
Louisiana.
Right.
That's right. Louisiana passed a bill that 10 Commandments in every classroom. And when the sponsor of the bill said, well, somebody asked her, well, what about kids that, maybe they're Muslim or Jewish or they don't believe in the 10 Commandments in their family? And she said, well, they don't have to look at it.
They can just turn their head.
They can turn their head. So same thing with the books.
Turn your
head. If you
head.
don't like the books, turn your head.
Don't let your kid check it out.
Yeah, they're going to do this in other states where you can just turn your head. A simple answer. Hey, I don't want to pound on this too much because we don't have a lot of new information, but we just did a cursory look and found that AMCC, the Alabama Medical Cannabis Commission, is paying outside attorneys nearly $1 million to do nothing but, cause havoc.
Right. They paid $784,000. So in the records that we've been able to obtain at this point, interestingly enough, out of that $784 million, Will Webster. So I'm sorry. Out of the $784,000, Will Webster has made over $500,000 so far.
And Josh, Will Webster is the one who is at the forefront of messing this thing up.
Well, yeah, somebody is certainly, and that's that is real.
That is my opinion.
Right there, right? That is real government work, right? You screw it up, and you get paid more to fix it, or to not fix it. To try to fix it. I guess. Listen, I think that those attorneys are, I think they would argue, well, these other people sued us, so we got to defend ourselves or whatever. But I think we've at this point looked at these lawsuits enough, and we know that there's some legitimacy behind a lot of it. And the process was, as admitted by the AMCC, screwed up on a number of occasions.
And I think these lawyers are doing more to protect their own behinds than they are the commissioners, even though they're probably
And more than
doing that
anything, they're doing everything they can to stop these depositions.
Absolutely. They don't want the truth to come out.
Nope.
You're watching the voice of Alabama politics. We'll be right back.
My personal biggest pet peeve is kids who are not properly restrained, whether that be in a booster seat, a car seat, or even a simple seatbelt. Kids, they become projectiles, and it's terrifying.
It absolutely breaks my heart to know that something so innocent could be punished so severely.
Your children rely on you to be that person that says, no, you need to put your seatbelt on.
125.
As a paramedic, you wouldn't believe the things that we've seen.
I've seen all types of horrible things.
We're there basically picking up the pieces from your worst day.
Everyone is just driving and not paying attention.
We all have the same goal. All of us want to go home alive and safe and harm nobody else in the process.
Slow down. Be careful. Care about the other people on the road. Don't be the reason that someone else doesn't go home tonight.
Welcome back to the voice of Alabama politics. On January 11th, excuse me, on January 11th, 1989, Ronald Reagan gave his farewell address to the people of the United States of America. And in that address, he reaffirmed his vision as the United States as a shining city on a hill. Mm-hmm. And he made the statement about there was a resurgence of love of country patriotism. But he also warned that we must stay vigilant to what we stand for as a nation and not succumb to lies and propaganda against us. If you read it, Susan, I know you have, is that he had a positive vision of America. He didn't see it as some hellhole or terrible place to be. He saw it as a wonderful place where people from all over the world could come and reinvent themselves as Americans. And that was the vision. Today, I think people have lost sight of that vision. And I think one of the reasons they've lost sight of it is because Ronald Reagan sort of had to make a devil's bargain to make sure he won his first election and the second one. And that he went to religious right groups like James Dobson, Jerry Falwell, and those people, and got them to jump on board with a once divorced governor of California who had signed the most liberal abortion ban in the history of the United States at that point. But they thought that as long as Reagan embraced them, that they could get power. And they wanted power more than anything else to reshape the United States. I think now we see that power has grown so much that you cannot divorce the Republican Party from the religious right.
No, you certainly can't. And this was not Reagan's vision at all. As you said, he made a deal with the devil on this because Reagan was about inclusion and, being an absolute patriot and the country taking care of people, where now we're sitting in a situation where Republicans are trying to divide. They're promoting hatred. When you come to LGBTQ, Black history, you name it. Ronald Reagan would be horrified at what the nation has become as a result of the Christian right, the wanting to inflict all their ideals, even down to what we said, Louisiana and the Ten Commandments. The founding fathers also saw this as a major faux pas. That's why we have separation of church and state. But this has all been muddled now because they've taken this and made it a political agenda to be able to divide people.
Again, I'm not against religion.
I'm certainly not either.
Not against faith at all.
But not in my government.
But Josh, one of the things, and you're the one who got me to go back and look at this. You sent it to me and went, whoa, look at this. And one of the things I was struck by is not only his disposition and the mood of the country, was that his take on immigration, where he said that America was the shining city on the hill. If it had to have walls, it needed walls with doors that welcomed everyone who was willing to come here and work hard. And you've thought about this a lot, haven't you?
Yeah, I have. And you're right. And what you said to begin with too, we've had such a monumental shift, especially on the right and with the Republican Party, where if you go back just a handful of years ago, the idea of religion entering into government and people speaking openly about religion and things, that's not something that was, in this golden age that people talk about, whenever they decide the golden age was the best years of America, for straight white people, were that, these things were not there. They didn't do this stuff. Religion was private. They kept it away, to themselves. And that's how they practice. And with immigration as well, that's probably the biggest shift that we've seen, where we've moved from this, and I guess in some ways there's always been some pushback against immigrants, no matter where they were coming from, in whatever port that they were entering. But villainization of so many immigrants now, and what we talk about, where it's this border crisis and the invasion at the border or whatever, and those people make us better, as Reagan pointed out. They make us better as a country. They reinvigorate us and remind us, of how great it is to be here. And when they travel, when you talk about people walking 1,000 miles with their possessions on their back and carrying their children in tow to come to this place to be called an American at some point, I mean, we've taken that from being an inspiring story to something horrific that's threatening all of us, and they're going to take the black jobs. And I don't know why they're only taking the black jobs, but I mean, it's just, it's so ludicrous and offensive and anti-American.
Then I'll tell you what we should do. Everybody that's against immigration needs to stop eating at a fast food restaurant. Okay? Because let me make you understand this very clear. We're here in Etowah County. In Etowah County, we have what's called Chandler Mountain. Chandler Mountain grows tomatoes, right? Those tomatoes are supplied to the fast food restaurants. This 100-degree weather that we're experiencing now, that we're all complaining about, there are immigrants on Chandler Mountain picking those tomatoes. So if you really want to do something about immigration, stop eating at fast food restaurants. Because I can tell you one thing, I'm not going to be on that mountain picking tomatoes at 120-degree temperature. I'm not doing it. And I don't know anybody who would.
In most parts of this part of Alabama, you cannot go to a fast food restaurant that you're greeted by a very nice Hispanic young woman or man, or you can't go to the eye doctor or the dentist or anything else without someone of a Hispanic background being in the customer service or the dental hygienist. And they are not rapists and murderers. They're not coming here for your kids. These people come here to get a job. They want a job.
And escape brutality.
Yeah.
Yeah. They want to work. Yeah. They want to live a life.
And they do work.
They want to prosper. Yes, they do. I mean, I mean, look, you hate to overgeneralize in any direction, in this, but if you're going to overgeneralize, everyone knows this is true, that those folks who come here like that, seeking that life, they work their tails off in this country.
Yeah.
You know it. I know it. Everybody who's been around a construction site, around a farm, around roofers, you know who they're employing, and you know why they're employing those people. Yes, in some cases it's cheaper labor, and in some cases it's exploitive, and we should do something about that. But at the same time, these folks show up day in, day out, regardless of weather, regardless of what's going on, and they get the job done.
But instead of passing laws that protect them from exploitation, they're over here screaming about them coming in instead of actually getting something done.
Okay, well, that's going to have to be the last word. You've been watching the voice of Alabama politics. You watch us because we watch them.